Executive Director at Bajaj Auto, joining in. Rakesh, my first, question coming to you is, what's the sense are you picking up from the lockdown? Because we've already seen one extension that has come in. There is an expectation again that there could be a second, extension as well, which probably, yes, could be the benefit, for the benefit of the country. But overall, what's your sense on the back of COVID-19?
Yeah, that's right. While everyone was behind single-mindedly on the first lockdown, by the time we have come to the second extension, there is a lot of debate which is there in the public domain, as you know. Now, my own thinking is that I don't think COVID is going to go away in a hurry. It is not a hurricane or an earthquake which comes and then, you repair the buildings and you dust off. It's going to be a way of life.
Correct.
Therefore, we have to take this opportunity of this pause button which has been hit to actually on the grounds understand how we can resume commercial and industrial activity. This is of paramount because we can't keep the country locked down forever. Okay, till 3rd May, then what happens? So we have to learn to operate safely in this unsafe environment.
Right. And overall, right now on the back of the lockdown, Rakesh, where are you seeing major disruption in terms of business?
Well, it's all over the world. As you know that 50% of our sales comes from overseas. Domestic business is, as you know, at a complete standstill since March 24th. And even when it opens, one of the first things which the domestic retailers will have to do is to make sure all the registrations which were pending, there is a big task of getting the BS4 registrations which were been pending because those sales had been made, but the RTOs could not register those vehicles. The first challenge is that there will be a huge bottleneck that will have to be cleared off. And then, of course, a very sensible and safe way of operating has to be conducted. So business is absolutely at a halt in domestic. I would say internationally, the footprint which we have, which is largely emerging markets of the world in Latin America, Africa, and Asia, I would say that about 70% shrinkage is there. There are 30% markets where there is a partial lockdown. So I would say that from our international point of view, about an order of about 30% would still be accessible.
Right. So that's something which is going to be positive as well for Bajaj Auto in comparison to the other players, because at least there is some accessibility, there is some work which is already happening. But to this, Rakesh, tell me one thing. Now that production is something which is an issue, how are you dealing with the current orders? What's the order backlog that we are sitting on?
Yeah, that is a very big problem because we've got something like 28,000 vehicles stuck in and around the port because either we couldn't take them up to the port and people abandoned they're in the parking plazas and etc., or they're waiting for shipment. So that's the first thing. Overall, I would say we have a order book right now, or let me at least say we opened April with an order book of over 1,000 crores. So we have to execute those things, and the sooner our plants are allowed to operate with all the caution, the better it will be, because we can't even begin to engage with our partners, because if we can't tell them what has happened to their March orders, which were supposed to be executed in April, which are about 1,000 crores, we cannot even think of talking about July or June orders.
Right. So is there a disruption only coming in on the production side, or is it coming in from the supply side as well?
Well, as you know, in an auto sector, there is a huge amount of dependency on tier 1, tier 2 vendors. And all of us are facing the same issue. And when we talk about resumption of operations, it is not an easy thing which you can't flip a switch and start an auto plant. It means that you have to get all the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 vendors started up and complying to all the precautions. You have to get the, the transporters geared up. So this issue is being faced right down the line.
Okay. So with this issue as well, if you have to talk from the supply side as well, because if you have to look at auto, a lot of supplies that do come in from Europe in terms of, the automobile spare parts, a lot of things that do come in from China as well. So any disruptions that you're facing on that front?
Well, we did have a disruption in January and February when COVID was at its peak. But happily, even at that point of time, we did not lose any production because our dependence on China was only to the extent of 5%. So in that 5%, we did face. But we have also faced in some particular lines, for example, our electric scooter, Chetak, which had just got launched in January, unfortunately depended on a component actually from Wuhan, where it got affected. Now, that was bad, but from a volumetric point of view, I would say the disruption to us in Jan-Feb was only 5%. Right now, if we resume operations, I don't see China supplies being as any issue to us, because they were not a real big issue to us before. They will not be an issue now. The issues are really about local resumption of not just the production factory, but also of commercial operations for the dealerships.
Right. And how are you dealing with the dealers as well? Because, I've been in conversations with FADA, individual dealers as well. And again, the issue is the same as to when do we restart operations? Yes, they've been fortunate enough that they have been getting a lot of support from OEMs like yours. But for how long will you be able to support these dealers?
Well, it's not just the dealers. There are vendors, there are dealers, there are transporters, there are many other agencies who are, there are spare parts people. There are many agencies who are 100% dependent on us, on any OE. And, it is okay to create a bridge for them for a very short period of time. But with this scenario now, looking like, a long period, it'll be very difficult for us to, and it'll be tragic, but I think the vulnerable parts of the whole ecosystem will certainly get very, very badly affected.
Right. And another thing to this, Rakesh, is going to be that even if the lockdown ends, once we start resuming, work, we start opening up factories and all, especially for an auto company, it's not a switch of a button or just press a button and everything's up and back to normal. A lot of other things that need to be aligned well to start operations, for such massive companies. How long do you think will it take for any OEM, not only for Bajaj Auto? Logically, how many days would it take to actually get back to normalcy?
See, what we have done is that we are in total readiness to open. The first step of that is the internal education and alignment, that we should have our protocols clear as to how we will resume operations. Then, secondly, what happens is that we have to understand in what way the government is allowing this opening up. For example, the government may say that you can't transport workers from more than a square kilometer or 5 square kilometers. You can't transport them from this district to that district. Those kind of things we have to see what conditions this resumption will come with. And then those suitable actions have to be taken. They have to be taken not just for us, but they have to be taken for vendors and the transporters, etc. So I would say, and assuming that we don't obviously have to go back to 100% because that kind of demand is not there, but assuming even if we have to go to something like a 50%, a 2 to 4 week time for starting up a plant like an auto plant is something which we should be prepared for.
Right. But, we're talking about this, that yes, it is going to be difficult. But one more thing I want to understand is in the sense how demand is going to pick up, because there are a lot of theories that we've been hearing of. Number one is that earlier the conversations were that, yeah, you have the Ubers, you have the Olas that have come in, and that's what is disrupting people from owning personal vehicles. And now another theory that crops up, Rakesh, is that probably people will stop traveling, stop using public transport, and that's when, probably post COVID there will be a time when you will see a bump up in demand for automakers. Do you think that's something that as a scenario will play out at least in the domestic market?
Yeah, for every theory and a scenario, there's an anti-theory and an anti-scenario. So we are in this situation that, it can go either way. But having said that, I for once never thought that, at least for our sector, which is, let's say, motorcycles and three-wheelers, that Uber and Ola are posing a threat. In fact, I personally find, and this I'm making this comment not just for India, but for all the emerging markets where we operate, and that's about 70 of them. Now, what I've been noticing is that the demand, even in the pre-COVID situation, the demand for movement and independent mobility is so high, and supply of options is very poor. And that's why you see one three-wheeler which is supposed to carry 5 people is carrying 15 people. That's why you see, some very, very jugaad type of contraptions which are ferrying people in the rural areas. And this is true all over the world. One motorcycle carries four people. So it indicates to us how much of that demand is there. So, and with aggregators coming in, what was happening was that people were finding it easier to locate, these transport options. And therefore, I personally thought that these aggregators will actually expand the market for some time before it sort of matures. So I never thought that this was a threat to our industry at all. And now going forward, you're very right. I definitely think that people will say that I need personal and safe and independent mobility. It could be a factor which could pump up. But we have to also counter this by the fact that there will be some conservatism which will come in people, because cash will be king. People will say that, let me try to do with less, kind of a thing. But yeah, in a country like ours, which is under-penetrated to begin with, I've explained about the transport situation. All things considered, I think we should come back to some kind of a growth as soon as the dust on COVID starts to settle and consumers' confidence starts to come back, which could take 6 to 12 months.
Right. And what about, we spoke about the export markets as well, but what about the geographies, which are, economically dependent on oil? Oil prices have crashed. A lot of Bajaj Auto's export geographies do come in from these oil-dependent nations.
Yeah.
What's the kind of impact you're seeing on those geographies?
Yeah, that is, of course, a red light for us. It's flashing. And only thing is, that after the previous oil shock, in the sense that a lot of these markets, particularly in Africa, were used to oil being at $100, and then they've done their budgeting for their governments at something like $80. Then these people, after that oil shock, there's been a lot of sanity. I'm not saying that they've done their budgeting at $25 or $30, but it is far more sensible now. It will reduce the purchasing power of those economies. And I'm more concerned about the impact on their currency and the devaluation, which further drives inflation. So definitely, this is something which would impede growth in demand. Yeah.
Right. And overall, any changes in hedging policies taking with what's happening to the rupee-dollar pair as well right now?
No, we at Bajaj Auto focus more on certainty. We don't play the market. So, we have a policy which says that, it's very important for us to be sure about what we are getting this year and next year, so that we can provide stability to, at least from our side, to the retail pricing. The other factor is, of course, like I said, the destination country's exchange rate. But at least one uncertainty is removed, which is what we will be getting out of it. So there is no change in that approach. That approach has served us very well if I look at it from a very comprehensive point of view.
Right. And what's the sense, Rakesh, especially on the employee front? Because there are a lot of murmurs and rumors going around with regards to employees taking salary cuts. Is that a fact? And if yes, what's the quantum, if you could be able to tell us that?
Well, I can tell you about at our end, we definitely see that there is a case for preparing the employees to this reality. I mean, if the lockdowns continue and there is no revenue, then even though we are a very, very strong company, but we can face it business wise, but we have to also prepare the people psychologically, and we have actually been in dialogue with our employees and unions, and we are very happy in one way that there has been a lot of support and understanding. It is very important for this dialogue, and people are ready to support, and it's important for us to navigate this. So we have alerted people to the possibility of a salary and wage cut, but we have not yet pressed the button on it. We are waiting and watching, and if it comes to that, we've already informed our people. We will press the button, but the quantum has not yet been decided.
Right. And Rakesh, what is it that as an industry do you need from the government? What do you think that the government now needs to come out and do for the auto industry? Yes, to provide that liquidity to the system. They are doing all that they can for the banks. Probably it will give some support once the revival starts for the auto companies as well, because loans will be made easier for housing companies as well. But for this directly, what needs to be done? Because all of this will come in as an indirect advantage.
Yeah, those indirect advantages are also important because they start to bolster consumer confidence. So anything which the government does, whether it's a tax break, income tax break, or making it easier for people, and half the battle is sentiment. And if it addresses the sentiment, which encourages people to go out and make the purchase which they've always wanted to make, that's a very, very important thing. But directly, I think the most important thing, the need of the hour, is to have a battle plan for resumption of operations. And it is not just about resumption of production, because there's no point producing if you can't sell. It is about resumption of commercial operations also. Both of these things go hand in hand. We have to have a playbook. There has to be a public-private partnership which resumes. More than anything else, this is what is going to create confidence, and this is also going to put money in the hands of people, which then gets into circulation. Little bit more going further, we have been saying this even before COVID, that the motorcycles particularly, they are an essential commodity. And, they serve the bottom of the pyramid. Lots of entry bikes are there. Now, over the last 18 to 24 months, there has been a lot of incidents of cost increase, which is either on account of insurance or on account of regulation, etc. And obviously, this has increased the costs by 30% odd. And we, as manufacturers, we celebrate if we can reduce our cost by 2-3%. We'll pop a bottle of champagne that we did this and we got our costs down. But here the costs are increased by 30%. Yeah, and obviously that will impair demand. Now, it's a basic industry, it's a basic requirement. One thing the government could certainly do is, looking at this situation now, is to address the taxation component. It's very, very highly taxed at 28%. Now, if they reduce that 28%, the prices have already increased because of the regulatory BS6 cost. So the revenue loss is not that much. And then there's always the hope that with reduced prices, demand will increase, and the government might just net the same revenue or very similar as it would have netted at 28%. So I don't think a 28% to 18% reduction is a complete loss, because prices in any case have increased, and the government, obviously, this is ad valorem. So there is a benefit there. But then, yes, we don't know. The government has probably got hugely competing priorities. and we don't have that vantage point of view. One can understand, but it is important for us to present whatever case we can, and I think this could be one of the important things which the government could do, besides some of the financial side things which RBI has recently announced.
Right. So do you think there's a possibility of a price increase post-COVID, not only for Bajaj Auto Plus, but across categories, across competition as well?
Well, there could be, because there is the devaluation. There is along with the costs of along with the BS6 cost, a lot of those costs are coming from precious metals, which are important. Their consumption has increased and their duty has also increased. So there is that factor. And we are watching right now, everyone is watching, but that possibility could be there in Q1 of a price increase.
Right.
Unless all of us think, and this is a competitive issue as well, and we watch the competition, and if everyone sort of starts to prioritize getting the sales wheel moving, then one would probably look out for that rather than keep passing the costs down.
Right. And overall, we already spoke about Chetak, the dependence on China as well. But do you think what will be the situation, especially with regards to EVs? Is there a possibility that could take a backseat, or how will EVs be perceived from here on?
Hiral, I think the perception of EVs will not change. That they're a convenient vehicle, that they are environment friendly, noiseless, and progressive, dynamic. Those kind of things are there. But the point is, and that they are the vehicle of the future. But the point is that today, there is no business case for EV today. So most of us, all over the world, are pursuing EV because we know it is there in the distant future, and it takes time to build that capability and inside the company, have an engagement start an engagement with the consumers, so that we start occupying some kind of mind space. But we are doing that at a heavy cost because it's a loss-making proposition. And now, if as things open up and every company realizes that its business is going to shrink, then everyone is going to examine that, is it worth incurring this much of loss just to build capability? Those equations are going to be definitely revised. I'm not saying that everyone will suddenly walk out of EV. No, but definitely the people will tread more cautiously. We certainly will tread more cautiously because we want to be sure first our core business is doing well and we've brought it back on track. And then it's about addressing the future. But the most important thing for us is to first strengthen the core, get back on track on our core and mainstream business whilst keeping a light touch. Now, those balances is what we will be trimmed as we go forward.
Right. But Rakesh, a lot of markets where you will have to get demand revival back, do you think it will be important to actually go ahead and take price cuts, especially in regions like, say, Africa? Now, if demand falls in a place like Africa, what did you do in the past? We had seen a lot of price cuts that were taken. Will we again follow the same model to revive demand?
See, a lot of times, price is not the only reason. How much discount can you offer? And a lot of times these discounts work during a certain season period where the customer, if you don't give a discount to a customer during Diwali or some other festival, Eid or something at Christmas, they feel cheated. They feel entitled that it's a festive time and what is something special which you've got for me is the kind of thing which dealers say. But I don't think that demand can suddenly be spiked up by a minor adjustment in prices as OEs. And particularly I can say for us, we're very bottom line focused. Of course, we want top line to grow, but we will actually not do it and compromise our architecture. So therefore, the leverage, the degrees of freedom are very little, and I don't think that they can cause a very, very big impact on demand. Wherever they can, wherever we find that we are competitively outpriced, then of course we will address that. But I don't think it's a basic tool, and I don't think it has the power, enough power in an OE. A government reducing taxes is different because you're talking, 10, 15% kind of things. But for an OE, it becomes very difficult to sustain. So wherever there is a competitive issue, we will address that. But otherwise, fundamentally, we are not going to drop prices just to get the demand going up.
Right. And Rakesh, any kind of guidance on sales growth, or maybe I wouldn't say growth, degrowth that we could be anticipating for FY21? Or do you think we will be able to cover up in the second half of the year in the domestic and export market for two-wheelers and three-wheelers?
Yeah, first half will certainly be negative. Quarter one is going to be probably in the region of, decline of 50%. And then in quarter two, before the season, I think some kind of revival should start to take place because we are hitting that inelastic zone now where the customer, whatever the thing, has to buy. And is not bought in March, is not bought in April, is not bought in May. We will see that customer coming back, particularly if the environment starts to settle. And then there is the season. Some of them may wait for the festive season. Some of them may wait for the festive season. So I would say that we should expect probably some kind of a return to normal around that time. Let's say September, October or so, because there's monsoon also. And then it really depends on the stimulus package of the government. How much consumer confidence it creates, how much of money is getting into the pocket. Are they doing structurally to reduce cost? If those things are being done, I think we can see a kind of a revival in second half. But whether it is enough to offset the decline of the first half, I cannot really say. But I can only hope for that.
Any estimates that you are building in internally, at least? I mean, for how much degrowth you as a company are prepared for?
So, Hiral, the approach we at Bajaj Auto take, or at least what we have, is that we are trying to keep a horizon, planning horizon, which we can see. There's no point right now in this kind of a situation to plan for a period where you have no clarity. What action can we take for after imagining that, okay, second half is, plus or minus? We cannot take any action for that period at this point of time, right? It's not a stable environment. So therefore, we are very clear. We can see with some clarity, not complete, but little clarity, quarter one. So we are focused only on quarter one. We are going to take it quarter by quarter by quarter.
Right. Actually, that's a good approach. Rakesh, we'll just quickly take a couple of questions that are pouring in from retail investors as well. The first one coming in is that from Chetan Gindodia, that is it likely that lower end of the migrant community market will see growth revival, which could be better than the premium market post-COVID? So again, your entry level is something that could be garnering more growth versus the premium.
Well, I think that slightly above entry level will do better, because at entry level, it's very vulnerable, to the economic situation, and they get hit the hardest. Second, as you know, that half of the purchase is done on finance. I think financing will become more stringent about the credentials, about risk assessment. So the availability of finance at the entry level will become stricter.
Correct.
So I think that it is the next level onwards where we will see better growth and better revival, let me say, than at the pure entry level.
Right. The second question, Rakesh, is how is the situation currently in Nigeria with respect to our sales, as it is the major export market for us?
Yeah, so Nigeria is also under a lockdown. and there are certain rural pockets, etc., where sales, but we are facing a similar kind of a situation there. We think that it will be down by retail sales. I'm saying it's going to be down by about 50%,
right,
50 to 70%.
right. Another
These places are in a lockdown till 30th
30th,
April. We are
correct.
hoping that the
It
lockdown
doesn't
will
get
not get
extended,
extended.
yeah. But I think,
we are watching.
don't you think, Rakesh, instead of not extending the lockdown right now, it's better to have the lockdown right now versus get a relapse little later, because majority of the corporates actually garner probably say at least 60% of their revenues at least in the second half of the year, and that's the usual trend that we look at for corporates. So it's better to have an extended lockdown now versus get a relapse of something like this little later in the financial year.
I personally feel that there is going to be a relapse, whatever we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to live with that reality. This is not till the time either a vaccine gets done or there is enough of herd immunity which gets built. There is going to be a relapse. There is going to be always people who will be having COVID. We have to learn to deal with going back our normal lives. And, more importantly, for people who are poor and who are vulnerable, how to deal with that? How do we deal with migrant labor? We will have to be imaginative in that. I think whatever we do, there will be a relapse. But the answer will always not be that, okay, shut it down. It will not be possible.
Correct. Right. Another question, we'll just take two more questions coming in is, how will the three-wheeler demand shape up in India, both on the passenger and the cargo side?
I think it's going to follow a similar pattern. As it is, we were expecting three-wheeler demand to get a little bit hit because of the cost increases due to the BS6, and because of which, the three-wheeler is in fact 80% financed, So, because it's a commercial vehicle and therefore the down payments, etc., will increase. So, we were expecting three-wheeler demand to be muted in the first half. But then again, in any case, now COVID has further complicated the situation. But in any case, we feel that, so that was in any case. Now we feel that maybe in the second half, there will be some kind of a revival. It will follow the similar pattern as what we described for motorcycles.
Right. And lastly, with regards to where commodity prices go, they have been reducing. So what's the kind of benefit we see out of it? And what are the kind of cost reduction initiatives that Bajaj Auto is taking?
Yeah, now, as you can very well imagine, not just from now our whole effort has got re-strengthened, but even because of the BS6, various cost management initiatives are underway. Various types of cost initiatives, both from an engineering, R&D side, which will help us mitigate some of the cost increases. And yes, commodity prices decreasing, net of the devalued rupee will be helpful in maintaining the prices. But like I just said earlier, there are aspects of the bill of materials where the prices are also increasing. And now this is actually a very tumultuous period. And so we are not wanting to take any major consumer facing decisions based on this inputs of this tumultuous period. We'd rather take the shock and wait a little bit and see how the dust is settling down and then take some of the more important decisions.
Right. I think answers are answered, Rakesh. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us this time as well. And it was a great pleasure to understand a lot of things from you. We wish you safety. We wish all your employees, your family, everyone near and dear to you safety in these times. Stay home and stay safe. We will come back to you as well once the lockdown issues are sorted out.
Thank you very much, Hiral. Pleasure talking to you, and stay safe and cheerful, everyone.
Thank you.